My name is Chris, and today we're going to take a look at the Angel's Horn HP002 turntable. Welcome to the Vinyl Attack. When I started this channel back in February of this year, my immediate goal was to create a show that would entertain, inform, and simply be enjoyable. I have a passion for all things audio and hi-fi, with records in particular, and I knew that there were a lot more people out there like me that would hopefully be interested in what I have to say on the topic. Something I kept in mind from the very beginning was that this show was supposed to be fun. There are plenty of everyday life things happening to all of us, and it's nice to escape for a time with some quality music and perhaps a conversation with some like-minded people also in this hobby of ours. When things started to move a little quicker than I'd anticipated, in the very best way, I was excited to move forward with more into product reviews. Who wouldn't be? The chance to talk with representatives from product manufacturers all around the world and try their products in-home is an amazing amount of fun. But with that fun also comes a lot of work. Before I even started doing reviews, I began laying groundwork for myself concerning what and how I would review things. While my style and performance may evolve over time, keeping in mind a few core principles would make my job easier and more consistent with regard to quality and information. Firstly, I was going to be honest. Under no circumstance was I going to fluff a product or take compensation for a review that wasn't 100% accurate to the best of my abilities to report. I would call each product as I saw it right down the line, even if I did want to do so with a bit of flair to the vernacular, or at least I hope that's what you're hearing. Second, I wasn't going to review a product that didn't interest me. After a few months of getting a steady stream of wonderful subscribers, thank you for that, I started to receive emails from companies all over that wanted me to take a look at their products. From the completely absurd to the obviously poor constructed, I was inundated with review requests and bribes for these items, and I wanted nothing to do with any of them. Third, I was not going to make any assassination videos. That is to say, I was not going to review a product with the intention of dragging the manufacturer through the mud with the sole intent of garnering views and comments at their expense. We all know controversy sells, but I want no part of that. With any product that I did dislike, I intended on giving it a fair shake through testing to either prove my point or to prove myself wrong. That brings us to today and the Angel's Horn turntable. I take notes when I review a product, a lot of notes. And when I'm done, I go through and look at my in-the-moment thoughts to organize them into something that will make sense to the general public. Inevitably, in every video there's a list of pros and cons for a product, and this garners my full attention because this is where most of the decision-making is done on purchasing a product. At least it is for me. As I was writing the notes for this turntable down, I started to notice an unfortunate trend. The cons list was growing far longer than the pros list for this piece. Now, this by itself isn't inherently bad, as I wasn't intending to highlight only the negative on this table, and I hope that you have all come to trust that I'll report what I find honestly, but I'd never had this happen with a product before. I took some time to mull over what I wanted to do here, keeping in mind that I was not set out to do a hit piece on something just for the sake of views. I recalled some quality advice that I'd received from Ron at New Record Day about how if he found a product simply either didn't live up to his standards or his personal taste, he just wouldn't do the review. He would respectfully inform the manufacturer, return the product, and go on his way. This is great advice. This is also where I had my struggle. Originally, I had no intention of reviewing this table because from all the research I did, it didn't seem like something that I'd really want to purchase for myself or even if it was for a gift for someone else. The history of the company was in question as to where the tables were really made, and there was some minor controversy about potential fake reviews of the table online, and some comments I came across painted the quality of it in a fairly poor light. So, I posted a poll on this channel asking your thoughts. With the vast majority of people saying they'd be interested in my opinion, I went ahead and said yes. Perhaps this was an error, and I should have just gone with my gut feeling, but I was obligated to finish what I'd started now as I'd made a commitment to the manufacturer, and in doing so I could use this as an excellent learning tool for the future. Making sure that I stick with these guidelines I'd written for myself was proving to be blatantly obvious. So while you've probably already approximated my overall opinion on this turntable, I invite you to watch the details of what you can expect from the Angel's Horn HP002. This is, after all, a product review, and I aim to do my best with it. Upon opening the box, you will find that this turntable is not only stout in its construction, but packaged quite well. The 3 non-adjustable feet are connected to a heavy plinth that seems to be made of a solid piece of MDF with a veneer of some kind, but I couldn't find that particular information. There's a 3345 rocker selector switch on top, while the power button is in the back. To start the platter in motion, however, you simply need to move the tone arm toward the platter when the power is turned on. It will automatically put things in motion, and I found this relatively handy for avoiding having to reach around the back of the table every time you wanted to listen to a record. It has an adjustable counterweight for the tone arm that works as intended, even if the markings on the dial moved a little easier than it should, and it felt a little cheap. Keeping in mind that this table sells for $170 though, this puts into perspective which parts should have more refinement and which should not. The tone arm or lock lever is smooth and deliberate, and I did always feel that the metal tone arm was secure when moving the table about. One thing this table did quite well was the lowering speed of the tone arm. I like a bit of a soft touchdown, and this table had that in spades once you properly adjusted the counterweight for the cartridge. Speaking of which, you will find an attached Audio-Technica AT3600L already connected for you and attached. While the cartridge wasn't terribly aligned, you would want to double check its accuracy using either the included 2-point protractor or one of your own that you might have at home. Around back, you find the RCA outputs that you can connect direct to your stereo or powered speaker using the included cable, and the phono line switch, as this does have a built-in phono preamp. There's your typical 12-volt adapter port and the aforementioned power switch. Capping off the 002 is a solid and clear dust cover that works quite well with the robust hinges. You may have noticed that there are some parts and features about this table I haven't mentioned yet, and this is where my list of the abject observations come into play. So, what did I find troubling about this table? Keeping in mind that I do not wish to simply pile on this turntable, I'll be listing the problem areas as factually and objectively as I can. There is no ill intent here. I would just like to be thorough and informative so you might garner all the information necessary if you're considering this table for purchase. Moving back to the bottom and working up as I'm wont to do, you'll find that the housing for the electronics is a lower grade feeling plastic cover. The connections from the power switch to the housed electronics is run through a sizable routed out section that is left uncovered. While this is in itself a bad thing, when coupled with the industrial looking brass nut and bolt which makes up the spindle receiver, I did find it a bit off-putting. Coming back to the top is a very heavy iron platter. While this was touted as having perfect stability and rotation on the website, I just found it noisy. It rings like a bell when I tap on it and resonates for longer than you would think. When the platter is spinning and I touch my finger to the side to slow its rotation between tests, it sounded like a train coming to stop. The included felt mat unfortunately didn't do anything to dampen this noise and was fairly compact and hard in and of itself. You may be considering just putting dampening on the platter yourself, but this can be trickier than it might seem. Keeping inertia and balance in mind, you can't simply start adding drum head mufflers or tape and foam and expect a consistent speed during playback. Then again, when I took a reading using an app on my phone to check for speed and fluctuation and while on Flutter, I'm not sure that the performance would have been much worse if you had added dampening. I know this isn't the most accurate way to measure turntable speed available, but it's what I had handy, and its readings also reinforce what I was hearing during playback, so I feel that they're certainly in the ballpark. The table ran almost a full % fast, which is adjustable if you remove the plastic cover and take a small screwdriver to the appropriate holes in the motor, but the bigger problem was the wow and flutter. With variations at over a 0.5%, the HP002 simply couldn't offer stable audio. The motor was quite noisy while in use, and this noise did have some bleed-through in the quieter parts of the test records I played. Unfortunately, I'm not done. Moving quickly past the tone arm assembly being made of what felt to be the same low-grade plastic that housed the electronics is the anti-skate and tone arm balance. While the anti-skate does work for the most part, you have to dial it in by adjusting the tone arm balance after and not the other way around. I tried as many combinations as I could possibly think of using the 4 notches on the anti-skate rod and the suggested weight of the tone arm, but it wasn't until I put the cart at the limits of its suggested weight that the arm stopped floating back every time it was moved. Yes, the recommended tracking for the AT3600L is 2.5 to 3.5 grams, so using 3.5 grams is within spec, but it just didn't sit very well with me. Perhaps there was nothing to fear, but with my standard turntable tracking at only 1.8 grams, I just couldn't bring myself to put any of my personal records on this turntable for listening. I was concerned about damage, no matter how improbable it may or may not have been, with the 3600L having a conical diamond stylus, a standard material used in all kinds of quality cartridges. If I lowered the weight even to the entry number of 2.5 grams to help abate this fear, the anti-skate would pull the arm back and the stylus would often come right off the table. All of this combined kept me limited to my test records that I have around the house, so unfortunately, I can't really say how well this table can sound. It did sound fine with the records I played, these just weren't top quality pressings. I wouldn't feel comfortable relaying a sonic performance review with what I was able to play. With all the aforementioned items, it is with regret that I cannot recommend purchasing this turntable. So, if that's the case, why did I spend so much time testing it, reviewing it, and then seemingly going back on my second principal guideline of product reviews? I suppose I'd have to say, for transparency. I feel that I have made an error in agreeing to review this table, and perhaps I made another when I didn't contact the manufacturer representative to tell them how I felt. I could have done that, and made a completely different video and no one would have been the wiser. But as stated earlier, I think there's something for me to learn here. Mistakes will be made on this show from time to time, and if I'm to learn from them, I must acknowledge them. I am only human after all, despite my robot-like tendencies to measure everything I can get my hands on. By making this video and taking it public, I'm holding myself accountable while also still, hopefully, bringing you information of value. Yes, I am not a fan of this table, and moving forward, I will handle such situations differently. But in so sharing it with all of you, I will also have a constant, valuable reminder that even when mistakes are made, there's something to be learned so as to not repeat them. If you're in the market for a turntable and your budget is around the $200 mark as this one is, let me know in the comments below and perhaps I'll make a video about that. Thank you for watching this departure from the norm, and if you have found any of this helpful or insightful, consider hitting the like button and subscribing. I appreciate you stopping by, and I look forward to next time.